Hey everyone, and welcome to today's live stream where we will be talking about developing your decider function. So, your decider function is essentially the function you use, the thinking pattern you use to make decisions based on your values and what you think is important and what you think is meaningful. So, your decider function includes feeling or thinking or judging or perceiving. Morning, Phoenix. So, what I've come to learn about these functions between feeling and judging and thinking and perceiving, thinking and judging and feeling and perceiving is that there are levels of development. Feeling, judging, and so forth and so on. So people don't start out with a strong use of this function, but the strength develops as you mature and as you are exposed to and respond to and solve stress in your life. So what I've found is that my functions have grown the most when I've been under strong stress and strong pressure, and when I've been able to respond to strong stress and strong pressure. So the stress has to be manageable. If it's too high, it can actually break or weaken your function development. If the stress is high enough, like higher than what you're comfortable with, but not too high to be impossible, that's the ideal. So you're always looking to set your skill level. You're always looking to adjust your difficulty levels. So what you want is you want to play at difficulty level normal, not easy and not hard. So working with that, this is something you have to constantly adjust as you keep on going. Now, the past weeks, I've spent a lot of time developing my decider function. And something interesting came to my mind. Something I came to realize was, well, I've been working more and more full time at my current job, and that's meant, okay, I've had to do more. And something interesting came to happen when I started working more full time. Obviously, it's not something I necessarily want to do long term, because yeah, I like to spend time developing my thinking and my projects, my creativity. That's more important to me. But when I work full time, when I push and put myself in a situation where I have to work a lot and where I have to do my best and where I have to keep improving my performance and keep rating myself and keep grading myself and keep pushing myself, and all these situations tend to increase my feeling, and it tends to increase my ability to evaluate my circumstance, to reflect on my situation, to reflect on what I'm doing. It makes me better at knowing what I want. It makes me better at knowing how I want it. It makes me better at knowing who I am. And it makes me better at knowing how I can be true to myself. So all these circumstances have put me in a situation where I had to grow a lot. Now, lately, especially, it has also been a test on my decision making. So I felt that my feeling judging has not been up to speed with my introverted intuition. So what I've noticed is I struggle to make decisions. I struggle to assert myself. I struggle to speak out for what I want. I struggle to uh, argue with other people. I tend to give up quickly. I tend to let other people win. I tend to let other people get the last word in. But in recent situations, I've been forced to take more command. And so I've come to learn that feeling and judging is a lot more commanding than what it initially appears to be. A lot of people associate feeling and judging with being soft, with being diplomatic, with always wanting harmony, with always wanting everybody to be happy. But what I've come to notice is that there's also a strength to it. And I've seen that strength when I've been arguing with other people. So what I've been noticing is I've had situations where I've told people, don't do that. Somebody has been upset, somebody has been stressed out, somebody has been about to make a major mistake. And I looked them in the eyes and I said, you're not going to do that. You're not going to make that mistake. So in those situations, I've actually used my ability to be persuasive and to be diplomatic to take charge of the situation. So in these situations, I've been able to win arguments. I've been able to get my point to come across. I've been able to speak out for what I want. And what I've felt here is that I've been growing, and my influence has been growing. And I've felt better about myself because of this. Because initially I feel when I held myself back, when I didn't speak out, when I didn't say what was on my mind, I would see other people make these mistakes, and I would see them have to suffer the consequences, and I would feel responsible because I could have stopped it, I could have said something, I could have helped them. So what I'm learning is to engage more, to help more, to speak out more, to say what I feel, and to argue with other people, to share my opinion so that these mistakes don't happen, so that people don't get put in these bad situations. So, of course, what I feel is we have a responsibility to grow our decider function, to take more responsibility, to be more involved, to help, be of more help to our friends and family. So the growth of these functions, it leads to the growth of your influence as a person, how much significance you have in the world, and how much importance you can be, of how much importance and of how much help you can be to other people. What I've learned with developing your functions is that there are levels to everything. So when you think, for example, honesty, obviously, what I've come to notice is that there are levels to honesty. There are layers to how honest we can be. And, when people say, yeah, at least he's honest, I can always feel like there is something missing. I can always look at that person who is, and who people think is being honest, and I can feel like there is something more. There is something more there. Yeah, it's kind of honest. It's honest-ish. But I think there is also more behind this. I think there is something hidden here. And sometimes it's true that these people don't even know themselves what is honest. Sometimes we don't know how we really feel. Sometimes we're not really aware. There are nuances we constantly miss. There are emotions we constantly fail to explain. There are things about ourselves that we constantly fail to express. So when you're developing your honest function or feeling perceiving, what you're also developing is your ability to ask real questions. So you're becoming more precise in your questions. You're learning to ask more questions, to see more nuances. You can understand that, yes, I like option A. No, I don't like that part of option A. I don't like that part of option A because of this. You learn that there are levels to everything. You learn that there are nuances to everything. Yeah, sure, you like option A, but you don't like everything about option A. So there are things that are wrong. So just saying I like option A is not honest enough. If you can actually become more precise, and if you can actually learn to think, so what do I like about option A and what do I prefer about option B? Is there anything I could wish to be better about option A? That could also mean that you will be more honest, and that will also mean that you will be able to improve your situation and make things better than what they are. So what you're doing here is you're responding to a lot of possible frustrations. I feel like the decider function's role is to set goals, to show you what resources you have available, and to help you remind you of what's important and what's not important, and to help you remind you of how to get there and what to do to get there and what you need to do to get there. So the decider function responds to, in particular, anger. It responds to what we want, that question of what do I want and why do I want it and what makes me want it, and yeah, how much of it do I really want and how far do I really want to go. So when you're developing your decider function, you're constantly hit on what do you want. So where do you want to go? What do you want to work with? What career do you want? How much are you ready to work for that career? Why don't you want to work with this? Why are you struggling to put in your effort? Why are you struggling with your grades? Why are you struggling with moving ahead? What is it that's keeping you from there? So you're constantly going to be in this process of thinking about why I struggle, what I can do to stop struggling, and what it is I struggle with and how I can respond to it. So you're thinking about and you're designing your life. This works best for thinking and judging. Thinking and judging is the designer function in many ways. It's often called the architect function. So it sets up and it designs rules for how to live, how to do things. It defines goals. It says, I want this much of that. I want to get there using this method. And this, I want to start up this project. And this project should work for 2 months. And it should be that long. And it should use that much resources. So it's used to design your life, basically. It's used to design your situation and your experiences and what you do. And what you're obviously learning with the designer function is that there are levels to your ability to design your life. There are rules that are smarter than others. There are rules that could be better than what your current rules are. There are there are resources that you might need to succeed in your products that you don't currently have. There are things that you might need to be more realistic about. There are things that could be faster or slower than what you currently do. You could be more productive. Developing your designer function is constantly aligned with developing your productivity. Fneuk says, it might be harder to know what you want before you can actually utter it. So yeah, often what I find is a good strategy to learn what you want is to go out and do it. Go out and do it. Try it out. See how it feels. See how it fits you. That means there are limits to what you can think about or what you can solve just by thinking about it. So what you notice is with Enneagram 1 and 9 is they're always struggling with thinking too much about something. They're always thinking about how to make things better. They're always thinking about how to perform better, to do things better. But the problem is they might never try something out. They might struggle to try out new things. They might get caught up in a loop where they're only thinking about it. And they're thinking about it and thinking about it, but they don't end up doing anything. And that can be a huge stress, because at some point, there are limits to what you can think about and what you can solve purely by thinking. And at some point, your thinking has to lead to some solution or some decision. So you're always going to have to actually stress yourself to make a decision, to make up your mind. Yeah, if thinking is something you like to do, that's perfect, do that. But at some point, you're always going to have to make a decision, and then you can start thinking about something else after that. When you're not clear with yourself, I think you have a hard time actually recognizing them, though, at least speaking from my experience, Fneuk says. As soon as you know your intentions, it's easier to get what you want. So something I notice is when people don't know what they want, sometimes their decisions will speak for themselves. So I see a lot of people say they want one thing and then they start making decisions and they start planning and they start doing something that is completely different. And I think I've done that many times in my life. Just always keep track of where you're going. Okay, if this is what I want, why am I doing this? If this is what I think is most important, if this is what I say, how come I always end up doing that? So always note this when your intentions and your decisions don't align. There can be an internal conflict between intentions and decisions because often we make decisions based on what we think is realistic, but we evaluate our lives based on what we feel. And what we feel can be completely unrealistic. This is the dilemma between the heart and the gut. And there are countless internal conflicts like this. There is a dilemma between our decisions and our head. And there's a dilemma between our decision-making process and with our heart. There is a problem with our instinct about the situation as opposed to our desires for the future. So we are constantly in these internal conflicts. And what we always have to look at is how to align them. If our intentions are something different than our decisions, we have to be ingenious, we have to be clever, we have to think about smart ways to fix the situation. So this is all I can say about this topic. I gotta head out to work. Thanks anybody for tuning in. Sorry I didn't get to speak about thinking, perceiving. And I hope to see you all in the next video.